Justinian I, the emperor who almost rebuilt Rome. The year was 532. Flames rose above Constantinople as smoke covered the sky. The great hippodrome, once filled with cheers, had become a prison for thousands of angry citizens. Outside the imperial palace, rebels shouted for a new emperor. Inside, Emperor Justinian I stood in silence, while his advisors begged him to escape before dawn. The empire that had survived for centuries now rested on one decision. If he fled, the Eastern Roman Empire might disappear forever. If he stayed, he could lose his life before the sun returned. One woman finally broke the silence. His wife, Theodora, reminded him that royal purple made the finest burial cloth. Justinian listened. History often remembered what happened next. Few people remembered why it happened at all. Most people knew Justinian as the emperor who built the magnificent Hagia Sophia and dreamed of restoring the Roman Empire. That picture was true, but it was far from complete. It overlooked the ruler who nearly lost everything before achieving greatness. It ignored the legal revolution that quietly shaped civilizations for centuries. And it rarely mentioned the disasters that almost erased his life's work. This story uncovered a ruler whose greatest victories stood beside terrible failures, whose strongest weapon was not always an army, and whose empire survived because of decisions made in moments of fear. The real question was simple: did Justinian rebuild Rome, or merely delay its final farewell? When Justinian entered the world around 482, Rome had already changed beyond recognition. The Western Roman Empire had collapsed only a few years earlier. Kings ruled Italy, while the Eastern Empire continued from Constantinople, a city that looked toward both Europe and Asia. Life for ordinary people was uncertain. Heavy taxes supported distant wars. Disease appeared without warning. A poor harvest could bring hunger to thousands. Yet Constantinople remained one of the richest cities on earth, where merchants carried silk, spices, gold, and stories from distant lands. One surprising truth often escaped notice: the people living there did not call themselves Byzantines. They proudly called themselves Romans, believing their empire had never truly ended. Into this world came Justinian, the son of a humble farming family from the Balkans. His uncle Justin rose through the army and eventually became emperor. Justinian received an excellent education, learning law, theology, and administration. His greatest advantage was not noble birth. It was relentless preparation. Sometimes history turned not on noble blood, but on an educated mind. His first great test arrived when he inherited the throne in 527. He immediately faced enemies on every frontier and growing unrest inside his own capital. Many rulers would have accepted a smaller empire. Justinian imagined something far greater. Yet ambition always invited resistance. His greatest obstacle was not Persia or the Germanic kingdoms. It was the enormous cost of his own dreams. Taxes increased. Noble families complained. Even ordinary citizens began to question whether endless campaigns were worth the price. Then came the Nika Revolt. The violence began over rival chariot racing factions, but quickly became a political uprising. Much of Constantinople burned. The ancient church of Hagia Sophia was destroyed. Justinian prepared to flee until Theodora's courage changed his mind. General Belisarius entered the hippodrome with loyal troops. Nearly 30,000 rebels were killed in a single day. The empire survived, but the victory carried a terrible weight. Could any ruler save an empire without first staining his hands? Afterward, Justinian transformed destruction into opportunity. He ordered the construction of a new Hagia Sophia, unlike anything the world had seen. When it was completed in 537, he reportedly declared, "Solomon, I have surpassed thee." The words revealed both confidence and immense ambition. His armies also marched west. Under Belisarius, and later Narses, they defeated the Vandals in North Africa, reclaimed Sicily, captured Rome itself, and finally conquered much of Italy. For a brief moment, the Mediterranean again resembled the sea of ancient Rome. Yet his greatest achievement was quieter than conquest. Justinian ordered scholars to collect, organize, and clarify centuries of Roman law. The result became the Corpus Juris Civilis, the body of civil law. Few emperors understood that books could outlive armies. Then another enemy arrived without banners. Around 541, the Justinianic plague swept across the empire. Some cities lost enormous portions of their population. Trade collapsed. Tax income fell. Soldiers became harder to replace. Even Justinian himself became seriously ill but survived. The dream of restoring Rome suddenly rested upon exhausted people, empty treasuries, and shrinking armies. The turning point had come. When Justinian died in 565, he left behind an empire larger than the one he had inherited. He also left it deeply strained. Many conquered lands soon became difficult to defend. Some were eventually lost. The map changed again, as it always had. Yet the old emperor did not die as a defeated man. He died after spending nearly 4 decades chasing a vision that most people believed impossible from the beginning. The silence inside the palace during the Nika Revolt had revealed the truth. His empire had nearly ended before his greatest achievements had even begun. So, did he rebuild Rome? Only partly. He restored territories, but not permanently. He rebuilt magnificent cities, yet many later suffered new invasions. However, he accomplished something even more enduring. He rebuilt Rome's legal mind. Without Justinian, much of Roman law might have disappeared forever. His legal code influenced courts across Europe for centuries. Hagia Sophia stood as one of humanity's greatest architectural achievements. His reign proved that ideas, laws, and institutions often survived longer than military victories. History also judged him too simply. He was neither merely a conqueror, nor merely a dreamer. He was an emperor, willing to risk everything for a vision that exceeded the limits of his own lifetime. Few rulers ever bent the course of civilization so dramatically, even if they could not control where it finally settled. Historians still debated one question: had Justinian's costly wars strengthened the Roman world, or had they exhausted it beyond recovery? Perhaps that was why his story still mattered. Not because he restored Rome forever, but because he came closer than almost anyone believed possible. If this journey through the last great dream of Rome fascinated you, subscribe for more stories that uncovered the forgotten moments, hidden people, and impossible decisions that shaped the ancient world.